Well, welcome Amara and Lee to the Heart and Soul Hero Award ceremony. We're so excited to present Lee Scandinaro with the Heart and Soul Hero Award. And I'm going to present that right now to you as you guys introduce yourselves. So Amara, would you mind saying a couple of words about yourself? And Lee, same as I bring up your award.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm Amara Geffen. I'm a retired professor at Allegheny College. I've been retired 2 years, and I started a program called the Art and Environment Initiative, which it's become the focus of my work in retirement, that deals with arts-based placemaking and community development. And most of my work over the last 20 years with art and environment has been focused in Meadville or northwestern Pennsylvania.
Awesome. And Lee.
I'm Lee Scandinaro. I'm currently a shared employee of the ARC of Crawford County System of Care and Meadville Neighborhood Center. And in my spare time, I like to hang out with my cat.
I have a cat too. I appreciate that. Well, Lee, thank you both for introducing yourselves. And again, Lee, congratulations on this great award that Amara has nominated you for. And we'll hear a little bit from her about why she nominated you in a second. This is in recognition of the remarkable service that you've done in the Meadville community during the coronavirus crisis, and in the application or the nomination form. You know, this has been building, but also you have been doing work throughout the years, so this isn't just about coronavirus, although this has been a big part of the reason for the nomination is the work that you're also doing in the community during a time that's been really challenging. One thing I want to say about the award, Lee, you've been working on the Heart and Soul project for a while, my Meadville in Meadville, and I think this exemplifies. The award really is supposed to exemplify people that go above and beyond for their community, that understand that health and the well-being of the residents really is what makes communities strong, and bringing them into the community process. And I know when Amara wrote the application, she talked a lot about how you do that through your work. So congratulations formally from the Pennsylvania Humanities Council for this award. And we're so honored to present this to you today.
Thanks so much. It's there's so many people doing such amazing stuff, and so it's cool to be recognized.
Yep. Well, Amara, and speaking of, so Amara, can you talk a little bit about, you submitted the application, so can you talk a little bit about why you nominated Lee?
Well, I've known Lee for a good long while. I don't actually know how many years, but dating back to some of his work in the theater at Allegheny while he was a student here. And then I've been aware of his work through the My Meadville process. And in my experience, Lee is a big part of the glue that continually brings people together around the shared goals that evolved through My Meadville, through the Heart and Soul process. He stayed in Meadville because he loves Meadville, because he loves the place. And I think because of his commitment to being in a community in which it's possible to really engage and foster and facilitate change. I'm also really have a great admiration for his creative spirit. I don't think Lee ever took a studio course with us, but in working with him, he is just a really beautiful creative thinker. He thinks outside of the box. He, in my experience, he's almost fearless. An idea emerges, there's conversation with people, energy is generated through those conversations. And then the next thing you know, there's a really cool pop-up happening. Really cool endeavor that just seeds an awful lot of energy. So there's, a real commitment to bringing creativity, passion for place, and a real sense of optimism. And it's just a delight to work with. you know, to be around that, to be around him, to share that, to have his ideas come into the work that we're trying to do in a number of different projects, and to have a way in which the work that I've been doing through art and environment connects to a larger purpose. I mean, that was always there, but it feels a little bit more intentional because of the My Meadville work. Or a little bit more grounded, if you will, in a larger audience of people. So, and I attribute that to my relationship with Lee and to the energy and work that he does in our community.
That's great. Lee, what do you
Thanks,
think?
Amara.
I mean, what does it feel like to hear all of that?
I mean, it feels weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, mainly because I really do just like, I mean, I do care so much about the My Meadville process and about Meadville in general. And I just care so much about people like Amara who have been doing like amazing work and continue to be committed. And I just am passionate about supporting people who do that work. And yeah, so it feels weird.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And so I'm curious, Lee, can you talk a little bit about, you know, what drives you in this work? Because I was looking at the application that Amara submitted, and she mentioned, you know, you've worked with so many different organizations, you know, that are, you know, formally organized and, you know, community, like resident led, and that, you know, there's a lot of work that you've done, you know, on different levels, the neighborhood center, the Council on the Arts, you know, you're working with ARC, My Meadville, you know, so a lot of residents seems, you know, residents are important to you, like you just said. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, why? Like, what's your why in this? What is it about, you know, community and residents that really drives you to continue to do this work?
Well, I think part of it is, I think coming out of college, I was looking for a lot of kind of solutions and answers. And it was a really good time because My Meadville started doing these interviews. And I kind of was in a position where I could take on helping to coordinate those interviews and get to do a lot of them. And I think I found what I was looking for. I think I found the answers, which was just like talking to people on a one-on-one kind of connection basis and just figuring out what their lives look like and not guessing, but just hearing from them. And so that really helped me. So I was like, well, I want to keep on this commitment. It makes the most sense, and I think it's a good way to drive my energy and my, I don't know, what I think needs to happen in the world. So I think that's one big thing. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, like I generally do believe that like my liberation is tied to every other human being. So that's really a pretty important thing to me. And it hurts when I see people suffering and people in pain and people sick every day of their lives. And just stressed out beyond belief. And I just felt like sounds like a good thing to be committed to try to make some relief there.
And what are some ways in your work and the projects that you've worked on where you know you've tried to contribute to the well-being of, you know, other community members that may be, you know, suffering or experiencing challenges, should I say?
Yeah, well, I guess during this coronavirus, I mean, I didn't really have any idea what to do, to be honest. And it's been really hard to try to figure out, you know, we've got messaging coming in from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I really just did turn back to this idea of like, what does the My Meadville process say and what do the people that I know say? And my partner Autumn and I just started delivering flyers to our neighbors and just asking them if they needed anything, and we're able to talk to a couple people we hadn't met before. And I started thinking about food. I know that the school, Crawford Central, was doing an awesome job and being really forward thinking and starting to distribute food even though school was out, beyond really any other schools were doing. And I just wanted to support their work in doing that and making sure that you know, they continued to do it during the summer. So I try to do some work in that food direction, and ultimately, and not because of me, but ultimately Crawford Central is going to be providing that food all summer long. And So really what I try to do is just try to be a bridge between these, like, systems, these players that, have to make really tough decisions in really stressful times, and the people that are affected by those decisions. And so the food has been one, housing is another thing I'm particularly passionate about. And then of course inclusion, which all three of these are my Meadville, shared values, and it makes sense that that's what I would turn back to. And then in addition to that, I mean, just like, Amar's been doing this, plugging through this amazing project downtown right now, and just trying to maintain, this amazing, awesome project during these like unprecedented times. And so I'm just trying to support her however I can.
Yeah, and can we talk a little bit about the project? Because I know that's how, I mean, Amara has known you since your time at Allegheny, but, you guys, I looked at the application and also knew this from some of the other work that we're doing together. But, you've played a role in the the collaborative community project that's happening through ARC. And, either one of you want to talk a little bit about what that project is and what, how that community engagement piece, which sounds like is important to, especially Lee, but also Amara, I know it's important to you as well, how you've tried to engage the community together to be a part of that project.
Lee, do you want to do this, or?
You can go for it.
Okay. So there's a location in downtown Meadville. It's about 1 block south of Chestnut Street, which is the main business corridor. It was purchased by the ARC of Crawford County, which of course is one of the organizations Lee works with. And I'm very well connected with them because I'm the mother of a special needs young man. And they provide social services for individuals with developmental and cognitive impairment, intellectual disability, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They work primarily with an adult population 21 and above. And so they bought this building and they took the building down, and they started by wanting to make a space for their clients. And through a variety of channels, I got involved in the conversation with the director, and we collaborated on hosting a series of community stakeholder conversations to look at what should the purpose of this be. And in the end, it shifted from being closed to the community to a space that would be open to the entire community, that would be a space that would promote inclusion through arts, culture, and wellness activities. And so we've been working on, we've engaged the community to work on gathering concepts for the design of the space. What do people want to see? What should it look like? What should happen in it? And then we kind of finalized a concept plan, and Lee's been helping me with some grant writing over the last, I think in between January and April, I wrote 3 or 4 different additional grants to try to help us fund this. So it's really a multifaceted project because it will involve some stream restoration work, daylighting of a local historically important stream. There'll be a performance stage, so we'll be creating a permanent home for the second Saturday Night Live concert series. And then because of that performance stage, we'll be able to do a number of other events throughout the good weather. There's also a plan for murals and public art in the surrounding areas. So on one level, there's all this community engagement in developing the ideas, and in wherever possible, as we're implementing, the community will be involved in that as well, in actually making the space. In addition to that, there's all this public art around there, so that, or that's the goal, so that we'll really be revitalizing a full city block adjacent to downtown Meadville, creating a green space within the heart of the downtown area. And, that's going to have spillover to businesses in that area that are struggling. We hope this will be a kind of destination place for visitors. If we, who knows what the shape of the world's going to look like after after COVID-19, but that was the original intention, that because this aligns with a lot of other goals in the community, for city goals for development and county goals for development as well. And Lee's been right there helping seed ideas, bring community together. We participated just last Sunday in a session with 8 other artists, looking at community ideas that we had gathered, and then trying to finalize design plans for one of the first mural that we'll be doing, with some funding through a mini grant through Heart and Soul.
Yep.
So
that's great, and thank you for that, Amara. It sounds like an amazing project and a big project, a huge undertaking. Lee, can you talk a little bit about your role in the project and what attracted you to the project? Because it sounds like it aligns with some of what My Meadville was trying to say is one of the values, which is inclusivity and openness, and maybe some connection to helping revive or enlighten and enliven downtown Meadville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, my role has been pretty minimal. Amara's been doing like all of the work because she's amazing, and I've just been trying to support. However, just I'm on the board of one of the coalitions, so just trying to advocate for the project there, and just trying to make sure that I'm trying to do a website for it, and participating however she asks. But really, Amara's been doing so much of the work, and I mean this project to me is I just love like placemaking projects, because they are in general just like about involving people to put together places that work for them, basically.
Yeah.
I think I started coming across this when I saw like Project for Public Spaces having like showing pictures of like parks that like no one uses.
Right.
That just got me kind of passionate about it. And then actually doing the work, it was the same kind of stuff that drew me to the interviews, like hearing people come and talk about what the space used to be and what they imagine it could be. And that stuff was always really exciting to me.
Yeah, and that's a good segue, because one of the things I was thinking about as you guys were talking is that the process of Heart and Soul and interviewing people and hearing about their histories and how they their history in Meadville maybe, or what how they when you guys ask them, what do you love and what do you hope for Meadville, and then in that you start to unravel how people have lived and currently live their lives in Meadville. And I'm wondering, Lee, you talked a little earlier about getting to know people, and particularly people that you didn't know before, right? So what was that process like for you when you were involved in the interviews, and even thinking about how to create those value statements that come out of those interviews, and then thinking about action that could help tie to that? Can you talk a little bit about what that taught you about the people that live in Meadville, and what what you learned during that process about Meadvillians or whatever the term is?
Yeah, I've heard Meadvillians. I've also heard Meadvillains, so they're both kind of cool. They're like kind of an ironic villain, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think one of the resounding things for me was like sitting down with someone and realizing that while their story was their own and it was very specific to them, the values that they shared weren't surprising.
Yeah.
Most folks said the same kind of thing. They had the story about the summer parks program that used to happen. They talked about the small town feel of Meadville. They talked about how they appreciated that it was a safe community to raise a family in. And so I think that just showed me that like people can come to, a shared understanding of a place and have a shared investment in the future of a place. And so that's just something I I don't know that I expected. I thought people might be not more divided. I don't think that's the right word, but more kind of disparate or unthoughtful about their experiences. But in reality, it was like everyone was saying and thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
They just maybe didn't have the space to kind of act on it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of action, I did want to ask. I know at the time of that we're having this interview, folks are protesting, across the nation about the death of George Floyd and countless other Black and Brown people at the hands of police. And so, we've talked a little bit in the Heart and Soul community about that, and I did notice that there was a protest in Meadville, and you were, Lee, a part of that. So can you talk about why was it important for you to be a part of that, and how does it connect to my Meadville and your love of Meadville and place?
Well, I mentioned on John's I mentioned on John's call that John Hartnett's call that I've been participating in his anonymous groups, his kind of a play on the other mutual step groups, and that a big part of those is this anonymity, this kind of that we're all just a large piece of this whole, kind of moving towards a collective goal. And so that was really my role in that protest, is that it wasn't about me in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just another face and another human to show up and support the cause. And so I don't think it was my particular identity being there. It was really just that I am a human being there. So, And, I also think that, like, I don't know, that this whole thing has just, like, made me recenter where I want to be spending my time and refocus. And I recently, like, one of the things I heard doing all these interviews too was, like, there's going to be a huge shortage in teachers and social workers. And I was like, well, probably with the pandemic, that's going to be even worse. And I've been thinking about becoming a teacher for a while, and I decided to sign up for a program to become a teacher. And it's just because it's not really, it just feels like what's needed. I'm just like, that's always been what my MO is, just like trying to fill the needs that there are, and trying to serve the public as much as possible in whatever way I can. And not in a way that it's about me, but in a way that it's about, like, all of us moving together on this crazy train that we're on, to quote Ozzy Osbourne.
Yes. Yes. And so I wanted to see if Amara had any final thoughts. So thank you, Lee, for sharing that. And I think teaching is awesome, and good luck with that. I think that's such a great role for you, and we'll see where that leads you, right? And so, Amara, I wanted to see, did you have any other final thoughts? I have one last question for Lee, but I wanted to see if you had any other thoughts about, Lee's work specifically in Meadville and what he's been able to do, particularly during a challenging time for communities.
Well, I think what's really, like, locked in my brain right now is I hope that when you become a teacher, you do it in Meadville.
No pressure.
So yeah, no pressure. I mean, wherever you do it, the community will benefit. But we need teachers everywhere, and I totally agree with you. It's really going to be critical. And education, everything is going to change. So post-pandemic, and there's no returning to normal. And so to make those changes, your creative energy is really, and your creative vision is really going to be important. So.
Thank you.
So my last question for you, Lee, is, what, for people who are thinking about, engaging in community work, do you have, advice for them on how to start that process? I know a lot of people are thinking now about, instead of standing on the sidelines, it's time to engage, so any words of advice for people that are thinking that, and also for folks that are in that place where they are kind of sometimes speaking for communities, any thoughts on that as well?
I think get organized.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to be right. You have to be organized, and organizing starts with listening to people and hearing what they have to say and making sure that they are the ones that are working to make the change that you might want to see. Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, and I did not make that up. That was I stole that from someone else, but it's been resounding to me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about how it's time for people to listen to one another. And I think that's been, part of the heart and soul work, and clearly part of the work that you've done with all the community groups that you've been a part of, is listening, and then responding, as needed, or helping people connect how they need to in order to make action happen. So thank you for that. So thank you both for, taking the time today and for sharing some of your, personal views, and also, some of the work that Lee has done.